My name is Fonda Finch. I am 32 years old. Last Thursday, I walked into my parents' dining room and counted 3 plates on a table set for 4. My fiance is black. I am not. And my mom decided that was reason enough to erase him from the dinner she had spent all day cooking. My dad looked at Marcus, looked at me, and said 6 words that ended 12 months of happiness. This is not happening in my house. He would not shake Marcus's hand. He would not say his name. My mother would not add a 4th plate. But here is what none of them knew. The man they had just shut out of their home knew a secret about my father, a secret buried for 40 years in a county archive 3 miles from their front door. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. This is the channel where real family moments become the stories we all need to hear. If you have ever sat at a table where you were not welcome, this one is for you. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe so you do not miss what happens next. I live in Nashville. I work as a pediatric nurse practitioner at Monroe Carell Jr. Children's Hospital. I own a 1-bedroom condo off Belmont Boulevard. I pay my own mortgage, my own car note, my own everything. I have been doing that since I was 19 years old. My parents cut my college funding sophomore year. My father wanted me in pre-law. I wanted nursing. He said, nurses empty bedpans and lawyers change the world. I said the world needs more clean bedpans. That was the last tuition check Gerald Finch ever wrote. I switched to the nursing program at Vanderbilt, took out loans, and worked the overnight shift at a Waffle House on Broadway 4 nights a week. I smelled like hash browns during morning lectures for 3 years. Graduated with a 3.7. Passed my boards on the first attempt. Paid off $62,000 in student debt by the time I turned 30. I learned to build a life the way you learn to suture. 1 careful stitch at a time. Slow. Steady. No wasted thread. At the hospital, I am the person parents trust with their sick children. I am the one who stays calm when a 3-year-old's oxygen drops. I am the one who explains a diagnosis without making it sound like a death sentence. But around my own parents, all of that disappears. Around Gerald and Diane Finch, I am still the girl who picked the wrong major, the daughter who does not come home enough, the sister who makes everything harder than it needs to be. I am 32 years old, and I still rehearse phone calls to my mother like I am prepping for a difficult patient's family conference. My colleague Dana once asked me why I get so quiet before I call home. I told her it is like a pre-op checklist. You go through the items. You anticipate complications. You prepare for the possibility that something will go wrong, and you will need to manage the bleeding before anyone else in the room even sees it. She laughed. She thought I was joking. I was not. And then I met Marcus. We met at a Habitat for Humanity build in East Nashville, September. The air smelled like sawdust and someone's pulled pork from a crock pot on a folding table. Marcus was leading the structural team. I was running the first aid station, a card table with Band-Aids, sunscreen, and a cooler full of Gatorade. He came over around noon. Splinter in his thumb. I pulled it out with tweezers. He said thank you twice. I said you are welcome once. He stood there for a moment longer than a splinter required. Marcus Brooks, 34, structural engineer at a firm downtown. He designs bridges and overpasses, the things people drive over every day without wondering if they will hold. He is the person who makes sure they hold. He is from Memphis. Raised by his mother, Lorraine, a school librarian who retired after 31 years, and raised by his grandmother, Catherine Brooks, a home health aide who spent 3 decades caring for families in a small Tennessee town called Millbrook. Marcus measured twice before he spoke. Everything about him was load-bearing. We dated for 8 months. He proposed on a Tuesday morning. No restaurant. No ring box hidden in dessert. He set the ring on the kitchen counter next to my coffee while I was reading lab results on my laptop. I looked up. He said, "Whenever you are ready." I said, "I have been ready since the splinter." The ring was a simple band with a small stone. He had picked it himself. No help from a jeweler's sales pitch. He said he chose it because it was built to last, not to impress. I loved it. I loved that he understood the difference. One evening, a few weeks after the proposal, Marcus mentioned his grandmother, Catherine. She had passed when he was 16. He said she used to work in a small town. He said the name. Millbrook. I nodded, but I did not connect it. Not yet. Millbrook, Tennessee. Population 4,200. 4 churches, 2 gas stations, and 1 barber shop that has been cutting hair since 1957. Everybody knows everybody's business, and if they do not know it, they will make something up that is close enough. My father, Gerald Finch, is 61, retired shop foreman from the auto parts plant on Route 7. 34 years on the floor, 12 as foreman. He runs his house the way he ran his shift. On schedule, on volume, and without questions. You clock in. You follow instructions. You do not talk back. My mother, Diane, is 58. Homemaker. Church committee chair at First Baptist Millbrook. She organizes the potluck, the bake sale, the vacation Bible school, and the annual Easter brunch for 22 people without a single dish arriving late. She has never missed a Sunday. She has never raised her voice. She has also never said no, directly. Not once in my memory. My mother does not refuse. She removes options, a plate, a chair, an invitation that somehow never arrives. She manages objections the way a surgeon manages bleeding, quietly, precisely, and before you notice what you have lost. The dining table is an oak 6-seater that has been in the Finch family since my grandfather's time. It is where birthdays happen, where arguments happen, where my father once told Becca and me that girls who talk too much at dinner will have trouble finding husbands. I was 9. Becca was 12. Neither of us said a word for the rest of the meal. That table is where Finch decisions get made. And unmade. My older sister Becca is 35. Real estate agent. Married to Todd. 2 kids. She posts progressive things online. In person, she defers to Gerald on everything. I had not told my parents that Marcus is black. I called my mother on a Wednesday. Mom, I am bringing someone home for dinner this Saturday. His name is Marcus. She was delighted. Wanted details. What does he do? Where is he from? Is he a Christian? I answered. Engineer? Memphis? Yes. She did not ask what he looks like. I almost told her. The words were right there. Mom. He is black. 3 syllables. I could not get them past my teeth. I told myself it did not matter. I told myself they would see Marcus and they would see what I see, a steady man, a kind man, a man who designs things that carry people safely from one side to the other. I told myself that when they met him, everything would be fine. Marcus was not naive. He had done this before. Not with my family, but with the world. Fonda, I have been the first black man at a lot of tables. I know what that looks like. This is different, I said. They are my parents. He paused. The kind of pause that holds an entire argument he chose not to make. Okay. That evening, I was packing. Marcus was sitting on the bed, his wallet open, looking at a creased black and white photograph. An older woman, beautiful smile, standing on a wooden porch. He carried it the way some men carry a St. Christopher medal, not for show, but for grounding. Who is that? I had asked once, early in our relationship. My grandmother, Catherine. She is the reason I am who I am. He closed the wallet. Then he said quietly, Your last name is Finch. From Millbrook. I nodded. Marcus went quiet for a long time. My grandmother used to work in Millbrook, Marcus said. He was folding a shirt, not looking at me. She was a home health aide, took care of families who needed help. She worked there for about 30 years. Okay, I said. I was checking my packing list. Toothbrush. Charger. The earrings my mother gave me for my 21st birthday. A peace offering I wore like armor. She took care of a family named Finch, a little boy, for about 3 years. His mother she was not able to care for him. I laughed. Not a real laugh. The kind you use to close a conversation you do not want to have. Marcus, Millbrook has like 6 families named Finch. Half the town is Finch or Finch adjacent. That is not us. He did not push. He put the photograph back in his wallet and slid the wallet into his jacket pocket. Carefully. The way you handle something irreplaceable. I should have paid attention to the way he handled that photograph. I should have noticed the way his jaw tightened when I said, "That is not us." But I was too busy rehearsing how to introduce the man I loved to people who might not love him back. I had a whole script planned. Dad, this is Marcus. He is an engineer. He designs bridges. Mom, he loves pot roast. I had coached him on this detail because my mother measures affection in food and food-adjacent compliments. Becca, be normal. That was my plan. Introduce, impress, survive. I did not have a plan for 3 plates. Nobody plans for 3 plates. The drive from Nashville to Millbrook is 3 hours if you do not stop. We stopped once at a gas station outside Cookeville, where Marcus bought 2 bottles of water and a pack of spearmint gum. He offered me a piece. I took 2. We passed the welcome sign at 4:17 in the afternoon. Welcome to Millbrook. Population 4,200. Established 1847. The sign is white with green lettering. It has looked the same since I was a child. The population has been 4,200 for as long as anyone can remember, which means people are born and people leave at exactly the same rate. Marcus drove. His hand on the gear shift was steady. Mine were in my lap, folding and unfolding a receipt I had found in my purse. I called Becca. We are 20 minutes out. Mom made pot roast. Dad is in a mood. You know how he gets. What kind of mood? The Gerald kind. The Gerald kind. Becca and I had a shorthand for our father's temperament the way meteorologists have a scale for hurricanes. Category 1, silent disapproval. Category 2, pointed comments about other people's choices that are actually about yours. Category 3, direct confrontation, voice raised, fist on the table. Category 4, we do not talk about Category 4. The last time Gerald went Category 4 was when Becca told him she was marrying Todd, who had dropped out of college twice. Gerald came around after 2 months. Todd had the advantage of being white. Marcus did not. We pulled into the driveway at 4:36. The porch light was on. My father's truck, a blue Ford F-150, same one he has driven for 11 years, sat in the driveway like a sentry. The living room curtain moved. Someone was watching. Through the dining room window, I could see the table. 3 place settings, 3 plates. 3 sets of silverware catching the overhead light. I counted them through the window before we even got out of the car. The front door opened before we reached the porch steps. My mother stood in the doorway, wearing her Sunday apron on a Saturday, which meant she had been cooking since noon. Her smile was in place. Perfect. Practiced. The same smile she wears for the pastor, for the neighbor who returns borrowed casserole dishes, for anyone who needs to believe that Diane Finch has everything under control. She saw Marcus. The smile did not change shape, but it changed temperature, like someone turned the thermostat down 10 degrees without touching the dial. Well, come in, come in. She stepped aside, not warmly, not with the wide-open door hospitality she gives everyone else. She stepped aside the way you make room for a piece of furniture being delivered, efficiently, and only far enough. Gerald appeared behind her. He filled the hallway the way he always does, shoulders square, chin lifted, the posture of a man who has never once wondered if he belongs in his own house. He looked at Marcus. He looked at me, his jaw set the way a deadbolt sets, audible and final. This is not happening in my house. 6 words. My father used 6 words to erase 12 months of my happiness. He said them the way he used to call reject codes on the factory floor. Clear, final, no appeal. Marcus extended his hand. Mr. Finch, I am Marcus Brooks. It is a pleasure to meet you. Gerald looked at the hand the way you look at something that has landed on your food. He did not take it. He turned around and walked back down the hallway. Diane filled the gap the way she always fills gaps, with noise shaped like words. Come in, come in. Gerald is just, you know how he is. Let me take your jackets. Becca was in the kitchen. She looked up, saw Marcus, and looked back down at her phone. I am standing in my parents' hallway, and the man I love just had his handshake refused by my father. If you have ever brought someone home and watched your family choose judgment over love, you already know this feeling. Hit that subscribe button, because what happens at that dinner table, 3 plates and all, is something you will not forget. The dining room looked exactly the way it always looks when my mother is performing. The good tablecloth, ivory linen, ironed with creases sharp enough to file paperwork on. The Sunday plates, white with a thin gold rim, the set she got as a wedding gift in 1988 and has never chipped. The crystal water glasses, the cloth napkins folded into triangles, 3 of everything. Mom, you are missing a plate. She did not flinch, did not even look at the table. Oh, I must have miscounted. But she did not move to get a 4th plate. She sat down. Gerald was already seated at the head. Becca slid into her usual chair. 3 people, 3 plates, 3 worlds that did not include Marcus. I went to the kitchen. Opened the cabinet I have known since I could reach the counter on my tiptoes. The everyday plates. Plain white. No gold rim. The ones we use for Tuesday dinners and leftover night and meals that do not require performance. I took one. I set it at the empty place. 4th chair. Marcus's seat. The everyday plate sat among the 3 Sunday plates like a wrong note in a hymn my mother had been singing her entire life. Marcus waited until I sat. Then he sat. He did not comment on the plates. He did not comment on the difference between gold-rimmed and plain. He unfolded his napkin, placed it on his lap, and said, "Thank you for having us, Mrs. Finch." Diane's smile tightened. Of course. In our home, mine and Marcus's, the rule is simple. Everyone eats or no one eats. No exceptions. No asterisks. No gold rim required. The pot roast sat in the center of the table. My mother's pot roast is legendary in Millbrook. Slow-cooked 7 hours, rosemary and garlic, a splash of red wine that she tells the church ladies is grape juice. It is the dish that shows up at funerals, potlucks, and every holiday since before I was born. Gerald spoke to me as if Marcus were a lamp. "So, Fonda, how is the hospital?" "It is good, Dad." I put my fork down. Marcus is an engineer. He designs bridges. I did not ask about him. The silence after that sentence was a living thing. It crawled across the table and sat on every plate. Diane filled it. She always fills it. The pastor's new wife. Did you hear she is from Atlanta? The spring bake sale. She is thinking key lime this year. The Henderson boy down the street finally got into community college. Bless his heart. Words and words and words poured into the room the way you pour gravel into a pothole. Not to fix it. Just to make the surface drivable. Marcus ate quietly. He complimented the pot roast. "Mrs. Finch, this is excellent. My grandmother used to make something similar. Same rosemary cut, same slow cook." Diane's fork stopped halfway to her mouth, hung there for a beat. 2. She recovered. "How nice." Gerald's hand tightened on his knife. A small thing, knuckle tension. The kind of detail you notice only if you have spent your entire childhood reading your father's hands to predict the weather. Becca's phone buzzed. She looked at it. She did not look up. I sat at that table with a gold-rimmed plate to my left and a plain one in front of my fiancé, and I understood for the first time that I had been eating off the wrong plate my entire life. Gerald looked at Marcus for the first time since the hallway. Really looked. The way a foreman looks at a piece of equipment he is deciding whether to reject from the floor. "So, where are you from?" "Memphis, sir. Born and raised." "And your people? What do they do?" Marcus set his fork down. Not dramatically. The way you set a tool down when you are about to use your hands. "My mother was a school librarian for 31 years, retired last June. My grandmother was a home health aide. She spent her career taking care of families who needed help." Gerald's jaw shifted. A millimeter, maybe less. But I have been reading that jaw for 32 years the way seismologists read needles. Every tremor means something. "And you think you can take care of my daughter?" Marcus paused. A controlled pause, the kind that makes you lean forward. I do not think I can take care of your daughter, sir. Your daughter takes care of herself. She has been doing that since she was 19 years old. I am just the man she chose to walk beside. Nobody moved. The clock on the wall, a wooden one shaped like Tennessee that my mother bought at a craft fair in 2009, ticked twice. Diane dabbed her mouth with her napkin. Well, that is modern. Gerald pushed his chair back 3 inches. Not enough to leave. Enough to create distance. Modern. He said the word the way you say the name of a disease you have read about but hope you never catch. Marcus picked up his fork. Continued eating. The pot roast. Catherine's pot roast. In the house of the man Catherine had raised. After dinner, I found Becca in the kitchen loading the dishwasher. She was rinsing plates with the focus of someone performing surgery. Anything to avoid looking at me. Beck. I kept my voice low. Say something. About what? About the fact that our father refused to shake my fiance's hand. About the 3 plates. About any of it. She stacked a plate in the lower rack, aligned it perfectly. Fonda, it is complicated. It is not complicated. Dad was racist to Marcus. Mom backed him up with tableware. And you sat there. I cannot fight every battle. She turned off the faucet. Dried her hands on a dish towel. The one with roosters on it that has been hanging on that oven door since 2014. I have kids, Fonda. I have to think about holidays, about Todd's business. Dad refers customers to Todd. Like, a lot of customers. I stared at her. This woman who posted a black square on Instagram in 2020. Who shared an article about allyship last March. Who put a "Love is Love" bumper sticker on the minivan she drives to PTA meetings. You are telling me your silence has a price tag. I am telling you it is not that simple. It is exactly that simple. It is roughly the cost of Todd's quarterly referrals from Gerald Finch. She did not answer. She turned the dishwasher on. The machine hummed, filling the silence she was not willing to fill herself. I left the kitchen. Marcus was in the living room, alone, standing in front of the fireplace mantel, looking at the rows of framed photographs. School portraits, Becca's wedding, my parents' 30th anniversary. A family that documented everything except the truth. He was staring at one photograph in particular. The photograph was small, 5 by 7, pushed to the back of the mantel, half hidden behind Becca's wedding portrait and a framed shot of my parents at a church picnic in 2015. You would miss it if you were not looking. The frame was older than the others, thin brass, slightly tarnished, the kind of frame people used to buy at Woolworth's for $1.25. Marcus was looking, a little boy, maybe 4 or 5 years old, white, laughing, being held on the hip of a black woman standing on a wooden porch. The woman's smile was enormous, the kind of smile that uses every muscle in the face. The boy's hands gripped her collar the way small children grip the person they trust most. Fonda, come look at this. I stood beside him, looked at the photograph. The boy was unmistakable. Same jawline, same set of the mouth. That is Dad. He must be, I do not know, 1968? Maybe 1969? I tilted the frame. Who is the woman? Marcus did not answer right away. Diane appeared in the doorway. What are you two looking at? Her voice was a shade too casual, the voice she uses when she already knows the answer and is deciding how to manage it. She saw the photograph. Something crossed her face. Not surprise. Something older. Something she had practiced burying. That is just an old picture. I do not even know why it is still up there. She walked to the mantel, took the frame, and set it face down. Carefully. The way you close a book you never want anyone else to read. Let me get you all some coffee, she said, and left the room. Marcus looked at the frame, now flat on the mantel. Face down. Hidden. He looked at me. I looked at the spot where the photo used to stand upright. My mother knew exactly who that woman was, and she had just tried to bury her a second time. The guest room in my parents' house has not changed since I left for college. Same quilt. Same nightstand with a Bible and a coaster from the Tennessee State Fair. Same window that overlooks the backyard where Gerald grows tomatoes he will not share with neighbors. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed. He opened his wallet, pulled out the creased photograph, the one he carries everywhere, the one of his grandmother Catherine on a wooden porch. He held it under the nightstand lamp. "That is my grandmother, Fonda. And the boy in that photograph on the mantel is your father." I sat down next to him, looked at the photo. Same porch railing, painted white, the right post slightly crooked. Same afternoon light coming from the left. Same woman, same smile. "Catherine Brooks took care of your father for 3 years, changed his clothes, fed him breakfast, walked him to Millbrook Elementary every morning. His mother, your grandmother, was in the state hospital. Severe depression, could not function." "That is..." "No." I shook my head. "Dad would have told us." "Would he?" The question sat between us like a piece of furniture neither of us wanted to move. I looked at the wallet photo again. Catherine Brooks, arms strong, smile wide, holding a white boy on her hip the way you hold your own child, with your whole body, with everything you have. My father was raised by a black woman. For 3 years, the most important person in his life was a woman who looked like Marcus, and he had just refused to shake Marcus's hand at his own front door. The weight of 40 years of silence filled the guest room like a fog. Dense, cold, impossible to see through. Marcus pulled up his phone. He had been ready for this conversation in a way I was not. He scrolled to a bookmarked page, the County Home Health Aid Registry, digitized and archived by the Tennessee State Records Office in 2019. Catherine Brooks. Registered Home Health Aid. Shelby County license. Active 1964 through 1993. Assigned clients included a list of family names with addresses and dates. Finch, Gerald, minor. Millbrook, Tennessee. Assignment dates: September 1967 through August 1970. County seal at the top. Gerald's name in a database column. Catherine's name in the adjacent one. Dates matching the years my father never talked about. It was not a story anymore. It was a county record. Filed, stamped, and archived on a government server that does not care about Sunday plates or church reputations. "Why did you not tell me before?" I asked. "I tried. You said there were 6 families named Finch in Millbrook." He was right. He had tried. I had dismissed it because it was easier to believe in coincidence than to confront what it meant. I sat on the edge of the guest bed in the house where I grew up, the same house where my father learned to walk, learned to read, learned to eat breakfast prepared by the hands of a black woman he now pretends never existed. The same house where my mother turns photographs face down and calls pot roast her own recipe. I had spent 32 years in this family, and the biggest truth about us was filed in a county archive 3 miles from this house. I did not sleep that night. Marcus did, eventually. I lay in the dark and listened to this old house settle and groan, the way old houses do when they are tired of holding things up. Sunday morning, I came downstairs at 7:15. Gerald was at the kitchen table. Coffee, newspaper, the Millbrook Courier, which comes out twice a week and is mostly obituaries, livestock prices, and a column by a woman named Dot Parker who has opinions about everyone's hedges. He did not look up when I entered. His newspaper did not move. I might as well have been the refrigerator compressor clicking on. Diane was at the stove. Eggs, bacon, toast. 4 plates on the counter this time. But she placed Marcus's plate at the far end of the table past an empty chair. Not beside me, not across from Becca. At the end. Separated. Like a footnote at the bottom of a page nobody intended to read. Even when my mother included him, she found a way to exclude him. Marcus came down at 7:30. Dressed. Calm. He saw the plate arrangement the way an engineer sees a structural flaw, immediately and without emotion. He walked to the end of the table, picked up his plate, and moved it next to mine. Silverware, glass, napkin. All of it. One smooth motion. No announcement. No commentary. He sat down. Gerald's newspaper rustled. Diane's spatula paused against the skillet. A quarter second. Then she resumed scrambling. Becca appeared in the doorway with her coffee. She looked at the new arrangement, looked away, pulled out her chair and sat down. Nobody said anything, but everybody heard it. Marcus unfolded his napkin, placed it on his lap. "Good morning, Mr. Finch. Good morning, Mrs. Finch." Gerald turned a page. I put my hand on Marcus's knee under the table. He put his hand on top of mine. Warm, steady, load-bearing. We ate breakfast. Diane caught me in the laundry room after breakfast. She had timed it the way she times everything. When Gerald was in the garage, when Marcus was showering, when Becca had taken the kids to the park. "Honey." Her voice was the soft one, the weapon-grade soft one. "I am not saying he is a bad person." I folded a towel. Waited. "I am saying think about the children." "What about the children?" "They will not belong anywhere, not here, not there." "I am thinking about them, Fonda. Somebody has to." I set the towel down. "You are thinking about what the church ladies will say." The tears came. 3 seconds. Maybe less. My mother's tears were her most reliable instrument. She could deploy them the way a smoke detector deploys an alarm, fast, loud, and impossible to ignore until someone else does the work of turning it off. "Why do you always make me the villain? I just want what is best for you. Like I always have. Like she always has. Like when she decided I should wear dresses instead of jeans. Like when she signed me up for pageants I begged to quit. Like when she rearranged my dorm room without asking during freshman move-in. Like when she told Marcus I must have miscounted at a table I could set in my sleep. My mother's love was a room with no exits, warm, well-decorated, and impossible to leave without her permission. I almost caved. The old programming kicked in. Comfort her, apologize, smooth it over, be the good daughter, make it easy. My hands were already reaching for her shoulders. I stopped, pulled my hands back, folded them in front of me. Not this time. My mother just told me my future children will not belong anywhere. If you have ever been told your love will produce kids who do not fit, or if you have been that kid, type "I belong" in the comments. Because belonging is not something your family grants you. It is something you claim for yourself. Stay with me. Gerald and Diane went to church. Marcus and I did not. First time in my life I had skipped Sunday service while under my parents' roof. I could feel the absence like a draft coming under the door. The kind of cold that tells you something structural has shifted. They came back at noon. Diane went straight to the kitchen. Becca arrived with Todd and the kids. The house filled with the noise of normalcy. Children running, Todd talking about the Titans preseason, Diane opening cabinet doors. Gerald found me in the garage. He was standing by his workbench, the one lined with tools arranged by size, each one on a pegboard hook, each outline drawn in black marker so he always knows what is missing. "You want to throw your life away? Do it somewhere else." His voice was the Category 3 voice, flat, controlled, dangerous. "But you are not bringing that into this family." "His name is Marcus, Dad." "I do not care what his name is." I looked at my father, 61 years old, hands that had run machines, fixed engines, built shelves. Hands that used to hold mine when I was small enough to ride on his shoulders. Hands that refused to shake Marcus's hand 20 hours ago. "You should care about his name, Dad. Because his grandmother cared about yours." Gerald froze. For 2 seconds, his face showed something I had never seen before. Not anger, not confusion, fear. The raw, basement-level kind. The kind you see in patients' parents when they realize the diagnosis is real. Then he shut it down. "I do not know what you are talking about. And if that boy put ideas in your head, that is exactly why I do not want him here." He walked past me, out of the garage, into the house. I stood there alone among his perfectly arranged tools, looking at the empty outlines on the pegboard where things are supposed to go. I found Marcus in the guest room. He was packing. Not anxiously, methodically. Shirts folded in thirds, toiletries in the side pocket, shoes in a plastic bag at the bottom. The man packs the way he designs bridges, with attention to load distribution. "You were right," I said, "about everything." He stopped folding, looked at me. I did not want to be right. I sat on the bed. We are going to have one more conversation with my parents. Not to fight. Not to convince anybody. Just to say what needs to be said and then leave. And what needs to be said? The truth. About Catherine. About the plates. About the fact that my mother has been cooking a black woman's recipe for 35 years and pretending it is her own. About the fact that my father was raised by a woman who looks like you, and he is too ashamed to admit it. Marcus was quiet for a moment. That is a lot of truth for one room. That room has been running on lies for 61 years. It can handle an afternoon of honesty. He nodded. And if they do not hear it? Then they will watch me leave, and this time, I will not come back until they are ready. He nodded. That slow, weighted nod he does when a plan meets his structural standards. Sound. Supported. Not going to collapse. I picked up my phone, called Becca. Be at Mom's house at 5. All of us. I need you there. Fonda, I do not think. 5 o'clock, Becca. I hung up. Set the phone on the nightstand next to the Bible and the State Fair coaster. I had rehearsed phone calls to my mother my entire life. But this one, the one where I stopped rehearsing and started speaking, that was the one I had been avoiding since I was 19 years old. Marcus zipped the suitcase, set it by the door. I am not asking them to change, I said. I am telling them what I am no longer willing to accept. He took my hand, held it. Load-bearing. 5 o'clock. Living room. The light coming through the curtains was that late afternoon Tennessee gold, the kind that makes everything look warmer than it is. Gerald sat in his armchair, the leather one, his throne. Coffee table in front of him with a glass of water he was not drinking. Diane was on the sofa, hands folded in her lap, posture straight. Her church posture, the one that says, I am prepared for whatever you are about to do, and I will survive it with dignity. Becca perched on the arm of the love seat, not fully committed to sitting, ready to leave. Todd was outside in his truck with the kids, engine running, watching something on his phone. Marcus and I stood. We did not sit. Standing was deliberate. This was not a family chat. This was not a holiday discussion about who brings the rolls. This was a statement. I called everyone here because there are things that need to be said. My voice was steady. And I want witnesses. Gerald leaned back. This is melodramatic, Fonda. No, Dad. Melodramatic was refusing to shake a man's hand because of the color of his skin. This is overdue. Diane's fingers tightened on each other. A micron. Behind Gerald's armchair, on the mantel, the photograph frame lay face down where my mother had placed it yesterday. I could see the cardboard backing, the small metal stand folded flat. A face hidden from a room full of people who needed to see it. Becca shifted on the love seat arm. Fonda, can we just... No. I looked at her. We cannot just. That is what this family does. We just. We always just. And it has cost us everything we should be ashamed of losing. The room went quiet. I turned to my mother first. Mom, when we arrived Thursday night, you set 3 plates. I told you I miscounted. You did not miscount. I kept my voice level, the same voice I use when I tell a parent their child's test results are abnormal. Calm, clear, no room for ambiguity. You set 3 Sunday plates, 3 gold-rimmed plates from your 1988 wedding set. Not 4. You chose the number before we walked in the door. Diane's lips pressed together, a thin line. And yesterday morning, you set 4 plates. But you put Marcus's plate at the end of the table, past an empty chair, like a footnote. That is not... You have never miscounted anything in your life, Mom. You plan Thanksgiving for 22 people. You organize the church potluck down to the tablecloth color and the serving spoon assignments. You do not miscount. Diane's eyes filled. On cue. On schedule. The tears that have ended every difficult conversation in this house since 1988. You do not understand the position you are putting me in. I understand perfectly. The position is this. Your daughter chose love, and it was not the version you approved. I am trying to protect you. You are trying to protect the story you tell at church, And the cost of that story is a missing plate at your own table. She sat back. The tears were flowing now, but something was different. These were not the tactical tears. These were the tears of a woman who has just heard herself described accurately for the first time and does not like the portrait. You did not miscount, Mom. You chose. The sentence landed the way a diagnosis lands, quietly, and with consequences that have not yet begun. I turned to my father. Dad, you said this is not happening in your house. So, I need to ask you something. Gerald's arms were crossed. The foreman's posture. The one that says, I have made my decision, and this meeting is over. Ask. Who is the woman in the photograph? The one Mom turned face down. I do not know what photograph you are talking about. I walked to the mantel. 3 steps. The carpet muffled my footsteps, but not the silence that followed them. I picked up the frame, turned it face up, held it where everyone in the room could see it. A 5-year-old boy, white, laughing, held on the hip of a black woman with the biggest smile I have ever seen in a photograph. This photograph, you, about 5 years old, being held by a woman on a porch. Who is she, Dad? Gerald's arms uncrossed, then crossed again. Put that down. Who is she? Diane. Fonda, please. This is not the time. Becca was staring at the photograph. I have never seen that picture before. Put that down. Gerald's voice dropped a register. The Category 3 voice climbing toward territory we did not name. I held the photograph steady. The same hands that start IVs on 3-year-olds without trembling were not about to shake now. Behind me, Marcus stepped forward. Calm. Measured. The way you approach a load-bearing wall. Carefully, because what comes next depends on how you handle the weight. He reached into his jacket pocket, opened his wallet, pulled out a creased black and white photograph that had traveled from Memphis to Nashville to Millbrook in the pocket of a man my father refused to shake hands with. He held it next to the frame in my hand. 2 photographs. Side by side. Same woman. Same porch. Same smile. Same white railing with the right post slightly crooked. In the frame, a 5-year-old Gerald Finch, laughing, gripping Catherine's collar. In Marcus's wallet, Catherine Brooks, standing alone on that porch, younger, hands on her hips, wearing a cotton dress and shoes meant for walking. Her name was Catherine Brooks, Mr. Finch. Marcus's voice was quiet, not dramatic, not accusatory. The voice of a man delivering a fact that does not need volume to be devastating. She was a home health aide in this town for 30 years. She was assigned to your family when your mother was admitted to the state hospital in 1967. You were 4 years old. Gerald did not move, did not blink. His face had gone the color of the ivory tablecloth in the next room. She fed you breakfast every morning. She walked you to Millbrook Elementary. She read to you every night for 3 years, Mr. Finch. 3 years. The room was so quiet I could hear the mantel clock, a thing I did not know still worked, ticking from somewhere behind the photographs. Becca whispered, Dad? Gerald said nothing. Diane's hand was at her throat, the gesture people make when they are trying to hold something in. A sob, a scream, a truth. Marcus closed his wallet, put it back in his pocket. He had said what he came to say. Almost. He looked at Gerald. The man who had refused his handshake. The man who had said this is not happening in my house. The man who, at age 4, had wrapped his small hands around the collar of a black woman and held on for his life. Marcus had one more sentence. Catherine Brooks was my grandmother, Mr. Finch. Marcus paused. Let the sentence find its footing in the room. She raised you the same way she raised me, with patience and grace, and a pot roast recipe that I am guessing your wife still uses. The pot roast. Thursday night's pot roast. The legendary Diane Finch pot roast that has anchored every funeral reception and church dinner in Millbrook for 35 years. The recipe Diane has called her own since 1991. Catherine's recipe. Gerald's eyes moved to Diane. Diane looked at the floor. Her hands were in her lap and they were shaking, Not the performative trembling she uses for effect, but the involuntary kind, the kind that comes from being caught. The silence was not dramatic. It was geological. Something beneath this house, beneath this family, had shifted, and every person in the room could feel the ground rearranging under their feet. Gerald opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing. My father, the man who never ran out of words, who always had the last sentence, who ruled this house the way he ruled his shop floor, had nothing. Not a word. Not a syllable. Not a sound. Becca covered her mouth with her hand. She was looking at our father the way you look at a building you have driven past your whole life when you learn it was built on someone else's land. I set the photograph frame upright on the mantel, face up, where it belonged, where it should have been for 40 years. Catherine Brooks smiled out at the living room she had once cleaned, in the house she had once run, for the boy she had once loved as her own. And that boy sat in his leather chair and could not find a single word. I stood in front of my parents. My hands were steady. My voice was level. I had spent my career delivering news that changes lives, abnormal labs, unexpected diagnoses, the kind of sentences that reorganize a family's entire future in 9 seconds. I had learned that the only way to deliver difficult truth is with calm, clarity, and no apology. Dad, the woman who raised you, who fed you, who held you when your own mother could not. She was black. She was Marcus's grandmother. And you just refused to shake her grandson's hand. Gerald stared at the photograph on the mantel. Catherine's face, his own face at 5 years old, 40 years of burial, undone by 2 photographs and a pot roast. I turned to Diane. And Mom, you have used Catherine's recipe for 35 years. You served it to your church friends, your neighbors, your book club. You won the Millbrook potluck with it in 2017, and you set 3 plates for her grandson. Diane pressed a napkin to her eyes, but the tears had changed character. These were not strategic. These were the kind that come when the curtain falls and you realize you have been performing in front of an audience that can suddenly see the stage. We are leaving tonight. Marcus and I are driving back to Nashville. I paused. Let the words settle. And I want you both to understand something. I am not punishing you. I am not abandoning you. I am choosing the man whose grandmother had enough love to raise someone else's child, even when that child's family would not have done the same for hers. I looked at Becca. She was still sitting on the love seat arm, frozen. And Becca? You can tell Todd he can come inside now. The show is over. Becca could not look at me. I looked back at my parents. When you are ready to set 4 plates, real plates, same plates, at the same table, you have my number. Diane stood up. The tears stopped, replaced by something harder. The face beneath the face. The one she has worn underneath the church smile and the potluck hospitality for 35 years. You ungrateful girl. Her voice cracked like a branch that has been bending too long. After everything I have done for you. I kept this family together. I managed your father's moods. I smoothed every rough edge. You managed the image, Mom, not the family. You are tearing this family apart. My hands stayed at my sides. My voice stayed where it was. Level, room temperature. The voice I use when a child's monitor starts beeping and the parents are panicking and someone needs to be the still point in the room. No, Mom. The family tore itself apart on Thursday night when you set 3 plates. I am just the first one honest enough to say it out loud. Diane sat back down. Her hands were shaking. Not performance. Real. Gerald had not moved from his chair. He was staring at the photograph on the mantel. Catherine's face. His own child's face. The life he had spent 60 years pretending did not exist. I looked at my mother's hands. The same hands that made my school lunches. The hands that braided my hair for picture day every September. The hands that held mine during thunderstorms when I was small enough to believe she could keep the weather away. The mother and the monster live in the same body. I know this. Every daughter of a difficult mother knows this. You do not stop loving them. You just stop letting their love be the only architecture your life is built on. I picked up my jacket from the arm of the sofa. Marcus and I walked to the front door. Our bags were already by the entrance. Marcus had brought them down while I was talking. He knew. The man who designs bridges for a living had already calculated the load this conversation would carry, and he had positioned the exit accordingly. At the door, Marcus turned back. He looked at Gerald. Still in the chair. Still silent. Still looking at the photograph. Mr. Finch. Marcus's voice was gentle. Not victorious. Not bitter. The voice of a man who understands that the person sitting in that chair was once a 4-year-old boy who lost his mother and found a stranger willing to love him anyway. My grandmother never spoke ill of you. Not once. She said you were a sweet boy who deserved better than what life gave you. He paused. She was right about the boy. I hope you can still prove her right about the man. Gerald's eyes were wet. He did not speak. He did not nod. He sat there. And for the first time in my life, my father looked his age. We walked out. The screen door closed behind us with that particular Millbrook sound. Spring-loaded, whining, the sound of every departure from this house since 1972. In the driveway, Marcus started the engine. I looked back at the house one more time. Through the dining room window, I could see my mother. She was standing at the table, not clearing the dishes, not wiping down the surfaces, just standing there, looking down at the place settings like she was seeing them for the first time. 3 Sunday plates with gold rims, 1 everyday plate, and a pot roast going cold in a dish that had carried Catherine Brooks's recipe for 35 years without ever carrying her name. The drive back to Nashville took 3 hours. We did not listen to music. We did not listen to a podcast. The highway unreeled in front of us like a sentence with no punctuation, just dark road and headlights, and the hum of an engine carrying 2 people home. Halfway back, just past Cookville, Marcus called his mother on speaker. Lorraine picked up on the second ring. She always does. Hey, baby. Hey, Mama. Marcus told her what happened. Not all of it. The important parts. The plates. Gerald's words. The photograph. The sentence. The leaving. Lorraine was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Marcus, your grandmother would have been proud of you tonight. She paused. And Fonda. Honey, Catherine used to say the measure of a person is not who raised them. It is who they choose to become. I cried. First time all weekend. 2 days of holding it together. Through the plates, through the hallway, through the garage, through the living room confrontation, through the screen door. And it took 1 sentence from a woman I had never met in person to break the dam. Lorraine Brooks, a retired school librarian in Memphis, understood more about my family in 1 phone call than my own mother had managed in 32 years of living under the same roof. We got home at 10:47. Our condo. Our space. Marcus made tea. Chamomile. 2 cups. Same mugs. Same kitchen counter where he had proposed 8 months earlier. I sat at our kitchen table, the one from IKEA that we assembled together on a Sunday afternoon with an Allen wrench and 2 YouTube tutorials. It seats 4. I opened the cabinet, counted. 4 plates. White. No gold rim. No hierarchy. No footnotes. 4 matching plates. That was all I had ever wanted from a table. 2 months later. Gerald has not called, has not texted, has not spoken to me in 61 days. Diane has called twice, both times to talk about Becca's children, their school play, their dentist appointments. Safe topics. Neutral ground. Never once has she mentioned Marcus. Never once has she said the word sorry. Never once has she acknowledged the plates or the photograph or the pot roast or any of it. Becca texted once. I am sorry I did not say anything. I replied. I know. But sorry, without change, is just a notification. She has not texted since. At work, I am steady. The hospital does not care about my family's dinner arrangements. Children still need IV lines started by hands that do not shake. Parents still need diagnoses delivered by a voice that does not waver. I am good at this work. I have always been good at this work. At home, Marcus and I plan our wedding. Small ceremony. Lorraine will be there. A few friends from Nashville. Marcus's cousin Janelle, who is a florist and insists on doing the flowers for free. No Finch family RSVPs. Then, on a Thursday, I received a letter. No return address. Millbrook postmark. Inside, a handwritten recipe card. Ivory cardstock. Blue ink. Catherine Brooks's pot roast recipe. Every ingredient. Every step. Written in my mother's handwriting. No note. No apology. No explanation. My mother still could not say the words, but she copied Catherine's recipe in her own hand and mailed it to the daughter she had tried to subtract from her own table. For now, that was the loudest thing Diane Finch had ever said. I used to think love meant keeping everyone comfortable, smoothing the edges, filling the silences, setting the table the way someone else decided it should be set. Now I know that love means keeping your own table right. 4 plates. Same plates. No gold rim, no everyday plate, no separation. Even when the people who raised you are still learning to count. That is my story. 3 plates, 1 sentence, and 61 days of silence. If this story reminded you that you deserve a seat at every table in your life, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.